In this lesson, we'll discuss a couple of different methods for importing geometry into our existing Softimage scenes. Okay, so as we start to work within Softimage and begin building up more complex scenes, there may be really any number of situations where we might want to bring existing geometry from other scenes into our current scene. So within Softimage, there's actually several different ways that we can go about doing that. One method involves just simply taking an existing Softimage scene and just bringing it straight into our current one. So to do that, we just go up to File and then choose Merge. So with this Merge option chosen, you can see we can now just basically come through and pick any Softimage scene that we want. So in my case, I'm going to scroll all the way down and I'm going to choose this Refueling platform. Go ahead and press OK. And you can see in my case, if I start to pull back, that now we get this really large platform here. Now, this is obviously much bigger than my existing scene. So what we could do is simply come in and just grab all of these objects. So to grab everything that belongs to a group, we just simply right-click within Softimage, and that will now grab everything. So now I can grab all of these objects and start to scale them uniformly. So I'll set the scale to something relatively small, so 0.1 by 0.1 by 0.1. There we are. And now you can simply grab this and move it off to the side or wherever it needs to be. Now the thing to keep in mind whenever it comes to actually merging some kind of a scene in is that the object or the scene that we merge in will bring every single thing with it. So it's going to bring in all the lights, all the materials, all the cameras, every single thing that belonged in this scene has now come over with it. Now we can find that if we go into the Scene Explorer. You can see here's our refueling platform. So this model, you can really think of this as being the entire scene. So if I expand this, actually let me back up a little bit. If you were to take a look at the scene root, you can see that we have things like the camera, the light, and all the objects inside. Now this refueling platform, as I was saying, if you expand this, we have the exact same thing. So within this, we have the camera that belongs to this scene, as well as the light that belongs to this scene, and anything else that we may have had. So really you want to make sure that if you don't want any interference, that you come in and start to grab things like the camera, delete that out, grab the light, delete that out as well. And that way we can make sure that this merged scene doesn't start to mess with any lighting or mess with any cameras that we may have already had set up. Now another option that we have is the ability to actually take certain objects and then export those as a .obj, which can then be easily brought back in to Softimage, or rather a .xsi file, I should say. So if I were to select any piece of geometry, I could go up to File, and then Export anything as a .xsi. And that will take out any materials, it'll take out the geometry, and it sometimes will be a little bit more clean and a little less heavy than just simply merging in a completely fresh scene. So, for example, I could, again, take any piece of geometry, export that as a .xsi, and then simply import that back in. So if I go to File, Import .xsi, go ahead and choose these default options. If you take a look inside the .xsi directory of this project that we're working out of, I already have a piece of geometry that has been put in here. So this is our ship pilot. And if I were to go ahead and press OK to bring that in, you can see that here is our pilot. Now in my case, this has actually done something that we may not want. So because I actually had my refueling platform selected whenever I imported my .xsi, it actually took this ship pilot and then put it inside of that model. So in this case, we probably don't want that. So to ensure that that doesn't happen, just make sure that you don't have anything selected whenever you actually go through your import. So let's try that once again. Make sure we have nothing selected. Import .xsi. Choose the default options. Grab the ship pilot. And there we go. Now you can see here's our ship pilot, which you can see again is way too large. So we can come in and just scale this guy down. And make sure that he fits inside of here. So again, looks like a scale of 0.1 by 0.1 by 0.1 should work pretty well. We'll just try to get him roughly fit inside that cockpit area. There we go, very nice. So you can see now at this point, becomes now very, very easy to come in and take our existing work from other scenes and then start to bring those into our current Softimage scene to continue working or start to add on to that. So at this point now, this brings us pretty much to the conclusion of this modeling section for our course. So what you'd want to do now before you proceed any further is to really come in, just for the sake of scene and keeping your scenes clean, is to try to come in and start renaming your geometry. So for example, if I were to grab this main body, I can just grab that, press the Enter key on my keyboard, and rename this from Surface Mesh, which we really, to look at that in a list, would not know what that means. We can call this something like Plane Body, or whatever you would like to call that. We can start to grab some of these other areas and actually begin renaming these one by one. So we can take this and call this something like our left wing. We can grab this, call that something like our right wing, and so on and so forth. Now we can actually take some objects and begin renaming these sort of all at the same time. So what we might do is grab some of these things like our cubes here. So let's see if we can actually find these different cubes. See if we can actually identify these. So here we are. So we can come in and grab these different cubes here, either through the viewport or through the Scene Explorer, which is what I'm doing now at this point. And what I'm trying to do is just grab all of these so I can just rename them at the same time. So with all of these selected, again, just press the Enter key on my keyboard. And now we can call these something like fanblade_1 or whatever you'd like to call that. And what this should do is now identify that number. So now it's fanblade 2, fanblade 3, and so on and so forth. So we can come in and, like I said, rename multiple objects at the same time. We can call this something like body rib. There we are, and now what we should see is here's this body rib, here's body rib 1, and body rib 2. So going through this renaming process is not something that you necessarily have to do, but for the sake of keeping your scenes organized and clean, and making sure that when you go into something like your Scene Explorer that you can actually identify what these different pieces of geometry are, is going to be really, really helpful for you as you start to get it into rigging and things like that. So what I'll do is go ahead and continue this renaming process, and when we pick up in our texturing section, we'll have everything renamed and ready to go.